I think, serious when she says something completely insane is Hillary Clinton. Listen to what she had to say about Donald Trump.
Trump was like, just gaga over Putin because Putin does what he would like to do: kill his opposition, imprison his opposition, drive, journalists and others into exile, rule without any check or balance. That's what Trump really wants. And so we have to be very conscious of how he sees the world, because in that world, he only sees strongmen leaders. He sees Putin, he sees Xi, he sees Kim Jong-un in North Korea. Those are the people he is modeling himself after. And we've been down this road in our, world history. We sure don't want to go down that again.
So
I've got so much.
It's outrageous.
But people genuinely believe this stuff.
They do.
They genuinely believe that he would kill his opposition.
Yes. Well,
threat to democracy, like this is the last election. But this is why they believe this stuff, because someone like that says that. And by the way, the checks and the balances she talks about, I'm sorry, but this is just another entry into the canon of you accuse others of the sins you commit.
Yes.
I mean, the Democratic Party has undercut checks and balances, not President Trump. The Democratic Party has said pack the court. The Democratic Party has threatened the Supreme Court of the United States. The Democratic Party uses the executive branch to enforce or not enforce laws passed by Congress when it comes to, for example, the border. Mm-hmm. Checks and balances are the number one threat to the party right now. And the party means Democrats.
It is so toxic. It is so destructive, that language. And I wonder what Hillary Clinton does all day, because I've got to believe maybe she just sits around and watches MSNBC, because Morning Joe Scarborough, had a similar comment. This was about 4 weeks ago, maybe 6 weeks ago. He said that Trump would execute generals. He said Trump has talked about using SEAL Team 6 to execute political opponents. So when I heard this, that was the exact language used on MSNBC, very similar, but except this is coming from someone who was the Democratic nominee. How incredibly irresponsible. You expect that from a left-wing hack morning host. You don't expect that from someone like her.
It is the cartoon that they've created of their vision of Trump. This week, there was more news that came out about decisions made around January 6th, and that Mark Milley and others refused to send the National Guard because they thought it would be Trump's attempt to make a coup if they sent the National Guard. I mean, this is sort of the way in which they've built up that he wants to be an authoritarian and a dictator, even though everything about his track record showed he provided more freedom to people.
4 years of freedom and prosperity.
4 years of freedom. By the way, that podcast was hosted by Mark Elias. No surprise.
Course,
so all the fellow travelers of the hard left talking to each other. Killing your opposition from the Clintons? A little rich. Got to get in line on that one. And then I feel like, Will, we keep trying to get to why are they waving these Ukrainian flags on the House floor? Why is Ukraine such a big issue for Democrats? I mean, the Republicans were split 50-50. It was 100 votes for, 100 votes against. All 200 were for Ukraine. Why is that? Just hearing Hillary Clinton talk more and more about Putin, it's always Putin, Putin, Putin. Well, and they built up Putin equals Trump. I feel like the Ukraine war for Democrats is a proxy battle. They get to fight Putin, which is fighting Trump. And we're going to fund all this money because Putin and Trump are the same thing. I think the psychology of Democrats in the Ukraine war is more wrapped up in that than we think. This was the anti-war party, right?
I love that you are in the lines of Democrats. That was some deep psychoanalysis.
That's it.
That's right. It was neocons were conservative.
Well, they were, but then they became, a lot of neocons have now reverted back to their liberal instincts because they're utopians by nature. They think by fighting
which they
wars,
were.
We can
Historically, the
societies.
neocon movement in conservatism was converted Democrats over to conservatives.
Correct.
In the, in like the 70s and 80s?
Absolutely.
When it happened?
Irving Kristol and others, like that's where it came from. So, anyway.
Interesting stuff.
It devolved.
Yes. All right.